uh, is the next level of being, like earlier people would say that, do you identify with your company? Do you feel for the goals of the company? Are you personally committed to the organization? So all of that put together and more is what we typically understand by employee engagement. So here is there are many definitions of employee engagement. Here is one which is quite deep in the sense that it goes deep down into the psychological state in which employees are intellectually and emotionally both involved in their work and are positively connected with both their co-workers and the larger organization. So that's a very deep level of connect with the organization. And as a consequence, the consequence of this state of mind is that it fosters a sense of pride, a willingness to apply discretionary effort. So now this is very critical. Discretionary effort. Okay, we will come back to this, and most importantly, ignites the energy that would not otherwise exist. So, so that's quite a few things. It kind of results in discretionary effort and ignites an energy which may not have existed had you just continued to do what we typically call a 9 to 5 job. So what it's calling for is something far deeper than just a formal job that anybody does. So here, discretionary effort is very critical. So, any thoughts on what this term means?
Means going beyond the call of duty, means the employee is ready to give off, means something which is maybe is not in that written code that he has to do this. He goes that extra mile, what I understand.
Yeah, yeah, the extra mile. So typically, our job description, our role in the overall structure expects us to do something. Some XYZ deliverables have to be done by anybody at a certain role. But where the person kind of steps out of what is expected and does an extra bit of work, which is important, critical, and adds a lot of value. So that is the discretionary effort that we are talking about here. So yes, going the extra mile is one way of putting it. So this is something that you are expected to do something, but you go beyond the expectations. That is where discretionary effort comes in, and many things are achieved by not just what people are expected to do, but by this particular thing called discretionary effort, which is, stepping out and doing something far, far more than what was expected of you. So this makes a big difference in terms of project closure, in terms of numbers to be achieved, so on and so forth. So this makes a huge difference. And next thing that we are talking about is that it ignites an energy which otherwise may not exist. Now, this also touches on maybe the idea of motivation. So, when an employee is motivated, chances are that this employee delivers uh, far more than what the organization kind of expects this person to deliver. And it is not a one-off; it is a consistent effort that comes forth from this particular employee or a set of employees where they are motivated to deliver, and so there is a energy which is witnessed, which adds enormous value to the organization. So employee engagement has become a powerful concept which tries to ensure that this discretionary effort and this energy is ignited in an employee, and the employee is able to go and achieve far more than what they are expected to achieve on paper. Now, this is something which is we may feel that it is good to have, or we may feel that this is mandatory. So let's look at some statistics in terms of how this this makes a difference on the bottom line, so to say. So what has been discovered is that if employees tend to be engaged, then the productivity that the employee generates is much higher than what a regular employee delivers. So, according to some statistics and various surveys have taken place. So, but by and large, all the surveys are leading to similar numbers in the sense that they are saying that every year, American industry loses about anywhere between 250 to 350 billion dollars of productivity because of poor engagement. People are not engaged with their work. Companies are not able to get that discretionary effort which we spoke about, and that additional commitment that we were talking about. That so as a result, you are actually low on productivity where you could have been higher. So there was a comparison in terms of the, companies which were rated very high on employee engagement versus companies which were rated very low on employee engagement, and they were evaluated on multiple parameters. So here you have three parameters. Now, one of them is 12-month change in operating income. So the one in dark blue is the company, are the set of companies which have high employee engagement, and their operating income showed an increase of 19.2 versus a dip of minus 32 uh, for companies which do not have a high level of engagement. So that's a very stark difference between engagement and lack of engagement. Next, you have a 12-month net income growth, and you have a 13.7% growth for the companies which have engaged employees versus a dip, uh, which is a minus 3.8% dip. And next is you have 12 months earning per share or EPS, and the EPS grew 27.8% as compared to the companies which have low employee engagement, where there was a dip of minus 11. So these numbers are very stark, and of course, a lot depends on the survey, but it is done by Towers Perrin, which who are kind of globally acknowledged as HR thought leaders. So so these are very stark numbers, and it tells us how an engaged employee can make a difference to the bottom line and the financial numbers. So moving on, according to the same survey, this is the state of affairs uh, globally. They did the survey and they found that you have 21% who are genuinely engaged employees. So they are delivering that discretionary effort which we spoke about, and as a result, they are impacting the numbers the way we saw in the previous slide. So you have 21% who are engaged. Now 41% who are enrolled. By this, the idea is that they are coming to office, they are doing the work that they are expected to do, but they are not really producing that discretionary effort. So now they are not right employees who are kind of written off, or employees who are not productive, but that additional effort which makes a huge difference to the bottom line of a company, that is not coming through from this huge segment, which is 41%. Next, you have people who are disenchanted, don't really enjoy working, who are kind of, maybe, one example that comes across is sometimes people say a large section of the government employees, they kind of come to office, they mark the attendance, and very often do very little productive work, and just kind of so they're not actively involved. Maybe working in very large organizations, at times even the organization doesn't make an effort to get them engaged, or uh, or in any service, whether it's a government service, whether it's a NGO. maybe the levers of engaging people are not that common. So you have people who are either just enrolled or disengaged, disenchanted, who are they are kind of not to be too bothered with the deliverables of the organization. And last 8% are people who are actively disengaged. Now that is a a very negative constituency to have in your company. People who are actively disengaged, and they are a negative influence on the entire workforce. So that is something that any organization should be careful about. And these are people who should be, my sense is that they should be removed from the organization if they can't be won over, and they are a toxic influence in the organization. So because they are not adding to productivity, but not only that, they are actually detracting from the productivity. So therefore, these people are people you need to be on the lookout for. So any thoughts on these statistics and these observations?
Yes, it's actually in my previous organization, Pfizer, it was almost similar because we had that the performers who were really very motivated. It was in that ratio of 20% or less. And
Okay.
that majority, around 40%, were people who were, you can say, they were just performers, means they were either in 100% or 98, 99% types. Those
Hmm.
20%, they were all 105, 110% types. And
Okay.
there was that group of people, around 30% or less, who were means they always felt that Pfizer was doing all the things wrong, means they were suffering and all, but they never left the company, but always they were complaining in that complaining mode.
Hmm.
And they ended up at around 70, 80%, 90%, and they were beyond, never could go beyond that.
Okay.
And there was that little percentage who were really the disengaged, who means the company was, if whenever the company identified these sort of people, they had to be thrown out.
Hmm.
So it is absolutely in sync. Means my work experience and this graph is exactly similar.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, yeah, mine too. Actually, when I saw this graph, I was really kind of surprised, and the experiences I've seen in various organizations, it's kind of tallies with what we have over here. So great. Moving on now, this is how the ground reality is. So let's see, as HR practitioners, as L&D practitioners, what is it that we can do about it? Karl Marx famously said that the philosophers have interpreted the world in various ways, but the point is to change it. So it's not enough to know what is happening, but now what do we do about it? What are the levers that we have at our disposal to make a difference? So so here are some more statistics in the sense that you have engaged employees tend to be 6.5 times more likely to identify their organization as the best performing organization in its sector, and then to identify it as below average. So the engaged employees tend to be people who are really gung ho about their organization. They are people who are ambassadors of their organization, who go out and say that my organization best. So they carry the flag of the organization, are proud to be employees in that organization, and so they are ambassadors. uh, they are 1.5 times more likely to stay with their organization for at least 5 years. So that's huge. Currently, we know that the turnover rates of employees are very high. So if they are staying with an organization for 5 years, that's pretty good, and that allows an organization to plan better, to save cost on attrition and new hires. So therefore, there is not only the top line, but the bottom line also gets impacted very positively. Uh, Next is nearly 2 times more likely to say that customers think highly of their organization's products and services. So this is great that they are, they not only go out and tell the world, but they go and tell the customers, and they tell the world also about that their customers feel very highly of their products and services. So that's a very positive endorsement that an organization gets when it has engaged employees. So, so here is a basically some of the drivers of engagement. Now, of course, first of all, any organization has to have that. We had spoken, I think, about mission and vision earlier. So, mission, vision, and then you have the strategy. The vision is to, let's say in 5 years, I will be a market leader, or I will be among the top five players in this particular industry in this country. So, strategy would be how do you want to go and achieve that? So strategy results in the kind of organization you want to have, the kind of processes, systems, keep people capability, all of that, and also very critically the sort of leadership that you want to have, and what is it that you expect from that particular leadership, and the leadership generates a set of kind of culture in the organization, and which is further um, propped up by the values of the organization. So the culture values, they are the abstractions but very powerful abstract intangibles who are there, and they are further complementing the leadership. So the leadership, culture, and values ensure that you get the kind of employee engagement that you're looking for. And now, last 10-15 years, we have had many books coming out which are talking about how employee engagement makes a difference to your customer experience. Engaged employees engage with customers, they solve customers' problems, and try to uh, get the satisfaction and the loyalty, which makes a big difference. And if you have all of this, you get organizational performance. So these are some very critical drivers of engagement, and they result in ultimately organizational performance. So any observations on this particular flow chart?
Uh, Dipankar, is this the leadership that we call of as servant leadership these days? Looking after the employees, allowing them, giving them opportunities to grow. Will it be
Uh,
under the same?
Yeah, see, definitely servant leadership helps, but actually, servant leadership comes from a different context. It really comes from, level five leadership, where the leader is expected to be very humble. So it comes from Jim Collins's book, Good to Great, where he talks about the level five leadership. And from somewhere from there, and also from other influences, you have this idea of servant leadership, where the leader has a very senior profile, but he's there to serve rather than be served. So it's a kind of reversal of expectations, that a leader kind of expects to lead, but by serving the people and not by demanding or using his authority. So it's slightly different, uh, but at the same time, servant leadership will definitely help generating far better engagement. Okay, I hope that's clear, Arpita.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, these are some of the drivers, of engagement, and let's look at we will look at group drivers and individual drivers. What is it that propels a group to feel engaged? So, one very critical is work processes. What kind of processes does this company have? You know, uh, Category of people, systems, processes. Now, at the heart of employee engagement is a concept which is empowerment. Now, if I have to be told that you do this, you do that, you don't do this, day in day out, then it's unlikely that I'm going to be very engaged. So how are you empowering people? Through knowledge, through capability. So that makes a big difference. If I know that this is the work that I need to do. I know this is how I need to do, and what is the outcome of this work. I have a certain amount of leeway to make my own decisions. Then I feel freer and I feel that I can kind of go ahead and give my best. But if at every turn I have to ask for permission or I have to take input from others, then chances are that I will feel obstructed and I may not really go all out to deliver what I can. So, therefore, what kind of work processes do you have? I have come across with many organizations, even large organizations, where very senior people, they don't have a discretionary spend. Like let's say somebody is a global VP and he wants to give a small recognition to his team. He has to reach out to HR and say that, look, I want to do this particular program where I want to give out this recognition and these certificates and these prizes, and HR has to approve, or his finance has to approve. Then people think twice that is this the right way. So therefore, what are the kind of systems and processes you have? Very often what happens is, because companies are not very process driven, so for everything there is a discretionary effort that needs to be made, in the sense that you have to reach out to somebody for approvals, for even acceptance of the idea. So so those are places where processes are not streamlined, and as a result people have to kind of start from square one every time. Then you have famous, of course, what our bread and butter is, which is L&D. So L&D plays a very critical role in engagement. I, I'm sure both of us, all three of us, kind of understand this. That more L&D you have, the chances are people are better engaged. People understand the values and the vision of the company, and people are better aligned. So L&D plays a very pivotal role in this. Now, if the L&D is a very skeletal L&D, just doing basic training or training which the organization cannot do without, and not doing additional visioning, uh, motivational training, behavioral training, so then it is going to not going to be as effective. So if you have a full-fledged L&D intervention, and people go through at least 5 days of behavioral training, they understand the vision of the company, the strategy of the company, then that makes a big difference. Third is culture. What sort of a culture do you have? Do you have couldn't care less culture, or do you have a deeply committed culture? So we have heard of Nordstrom, which is unfortunately not there in India, but their customer service culture is supposed to be legendary. So I believe rhetorically they say that the answer is yes. But when a customer comes, the customer wants to know something. The answer is yes, but what is your question? Because if customer, whatever he will ask, our answer is yes. So culture is very powerful. What sort of a culture do you want to have? And I think we had discussed, culture eats strategy for breakfast, because culture is all pervasive, and the kind of culture you have decides, how the organization runs. Then senior leaders. Now, this is a strange human psychology. I also earlier did not really put too much of a premium on leadership behavior, but gradually over the years, I've realized that people really consciously and unconsciously both follow what the leader does. Even the way a leader speaks, the words that a leader uses, people start emulating all of that unconsciously at times. People don't even realize, but they are using the same words as their leaders are. So leaders play a huge role, a huge influence on the culture of the organization. I know a leader who keeps using the word intact. So here we are intact, and within 3 months I discovered that his entire team is always, whenever they're saying something, they say intact. This is intact, that is intact. And it's very odd, but leader influence is very powerful. and that really has a very big influence on the culture of the organization. Next is communication. How much do you communicate? So in project management literature, it is said that there are three reasons why a project succeeds, and the three reasons are communication, communication, communication. So there can never be an excess of communication. So you should communicate. An organization which communicates always does better as compared to organizations which don't. Then structure, roles, capabilities, these are very powerful. How is your organization structured? Are you very hierarchical? Are you flat? Are you somewhere in the middle? All of that makes a difference. We have heard of flat organizations being um, very free flowing, where people can quickly do things. But of course, the flip side is that, particularly in a country like India, where people want quick growth, people want vertical growth and not just lateral growth. So it could be a disadvantage. But at the same time, it's in terms of work, in terms of pace of things. I believe they tend to be better. Then you have reward and recognition. How liberal are you with rewards and recognition? So, some companies believe in being very liberal. So it's very difficult not to be rewarded and not to be recognized in some companies. Everybody gets some recognition or the other in 12 months. While in some companies, it's a very rare recognition that you get, and only a very small percentage of people get that sort of reward. So it really varies from organization to organization and depends on the overall strategy and the philosophy of the organization. So then is customer focus. How focused you are on customer, and how do you want to achieve that, through employee engagement or through giving freebies to customers? How do you wish to do that? Strategy, we discussed that. Immediate managers, they are a very, very powerful influence on engagement. As we keep hearing that people don't leave organizations, they leave their managers. So that is where the manager plays a very critical role. Any thoughts on these drivers of engagement?
Customer focus one, can you please elaborate once again?
So there are, like, I spoke about Nordstrom. So Nordstrom is a company which is into retail, and so I will share, since you asked. Um, I will share a small story. I was just reading a book. This guy gave this example. So this writer, he had to go and give a speech in a hotel, and he realized that the shirt he was wearing, one button had come off, the second button had come off, and it was looking odd. So what he did was, there was a Nordstrom shop right next to the hotel, and he quickly he went in and said that, I want a white shirt, a nice white shirt, and so he took on wore that white shirt, and the other one, the salesperson realized that his button has come off. He's dropped the button somewhere. So the salesperson said that, don't worry about this. He did not even say anything. The salesperson said that, I will have this other shirt of yours, this older shirt of yours, ironed, fixed, and sent it to you. So he said, he thought, he didn't think too much about the old shirt. He was in a hurry. He just put on the new shirt, put on his tie and coat, and just went off. 3 days later, in a nice pack, without any additional cost, he gets his old shirt, cleaned, ironed, and buttoned. So that is the kind of customer focus they are supposed to have. It's a legendary company with customer focus. Now, what happens is, you cannot achieve that focus unless your employees are aligned. That level of focus cannot be achieved unless your employees are aligned. So they drive their employees to be aligned to their vision of customer focus. And so as a result, the engagement in that company is very high. And it is because they are all aligned to serve a customer.
I would like to share one personal experience of mine.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
I use Amex card, credit card, and SBI and ICICI. The service, suppose if have any problem when you call SBI, it's you can say, if you compare with Amex, it's pathetic. Even though SBI may be good, the customer service is not bad, but
Hmm.
Amex is so prompt. Means if they tell you that sir, this is a issue where I need to escalate this, and maybe I'll call you back by say after half an hour or even one day. If they tell you that I'll call you after one day, at which is the convenient time, you tell them that's maybe at 1 o'clock. You get a call at 1 o'clock the next day. Means they are so, means I have had numerous times where I had called them, and they are really superb. Means I'm, even though my at present I'm in Jharkhand, and the usage of the card is less, but I still continue with that because only of the customer service. It's really fabulous. That is one example, which means it's a live thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, I also coincidentally, had SBI and Amex, and so Amex has always been very polite and always helpful. While SBI once I threatened them that I will cancel the card,
I
and
have cancelled my card.
no, I
It
was
was so
actually just threatening the lady, that
uh,
I will cancel, and she said, "Okay, I'm canceling it for
uh,
you." And look, I didn't mean that.
they could never resolve my problem, so gone ahead and cancelled.
Okay. So, because nowadays what happens is, you give your card details in various websites, and
Mm.
then if you cancel it, everything goes for a toss. Your Netflix rental and a lot of other things, everything goes for a toss. So I was just threatening that SBI agent that, if you charge me for this, I will cancel. She said, okay, fine, I'm canceling it for you. And she canceled it. So,
Yeah.
so
Dipankar, even
yeah.
I could relate, when you were talking about all the group drivers to engage, and definitely to the previous chart, which
Hmm.
shows that yes, engagement brings a lot of employee retention, and then share price, market capitalization also
Hmm.
goes really high, right?
Right.
So I also know one of the organization, though it's not very renowned one, but they actually follow all these engagement processes.
Okay.
Starting from the work process, they have absolutely defined work processes, that how much time each and everything should take. If you're
Okay.
talking about meeting also, they have a protocol, they have everything. If the client is going to walk in, how people are to be dressed up, how they have to behave, and everything, and it has to be followed to the T. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not only the employees. I wondered because I was associated with them. So when there was a client walking in, I found that the peon, as well as the housekeeper, they were also dressed up in such a fantastic manner that nobody
Hmm.
could make out that they were not the trainers.
Okay.
It was that the process and the system and everything. So if they says that, okay, 24 hours we have to resolve it, we have to complete the deck within 24 hours, they make sure that it has to be done. Not only that, of course, the learning and development was in place. It was a continuous process. The
Hmm.
best part, what I realized, that the senior leaders, they were the one, those who actually developed this culture.
Okay.
So I remember my day one in this organization. It
Hmm.
was 30th of September, and I just the very same day I signed my contract. So it was a consultancy contract. So
Hmm.
so consultants are not that mean. They are not weighted so much, but
Hmm.
still. And the very same day, the HR, she asked me if I can just have a sit through of the session, so that I can learn the program really fast. So I agreed to it, and it was really late. It was somewhere around 8:30, and I was coordinating from Mumbai, whereas I was in Gurgaon. So this the MD, she was there, present there on that day, though I was not very much aware. So when I was leaving, so I said bye to this lady, and she said, "Make sure that you call me up once you reach." I said,
Hmm.
"Are you sure? Because I'm traveling back to Agra from Gurgaon, so it is going to take more than 3.5 to 4 hours." She said, "No, I'm 200% sure. Make sure that you call me, and any point of time you feel like you need to connect someone, please do that."
Hmm.
And I was astonished that yes, at 1 o'clock, with a very half-hearted mind, I
Hmm.
messaged her that I've reached, and immediately she sent me the message back that thank God you have reached. Take care. And on very next day, they started. So that culture which we are talking about of engagement, it actually drives, it is being driven from the senior managers,
Yeah. Yeah.
top management people. The communication also, how the communication is going to flow, the structure, role, responsibility. So what I believe, yes, engage for engagement, for developing culture, senior management is highly responsible, because they are the one, those who are the pillar, and they design the structure of the organization. And of course, reward and recognition is numerous. They make sure that things are in place. So I've still worked for that organization. It is fantastic organization, based out of Gurgaon.
What's
Wonderful
the
organization.
name, Pallavi?
It is it is Chrysalis HRD.
Okay,
Okay.
Chrysalis
good to
HRD. They
know.
are
Yeah.
so meticulous in process that, at times few people, new joiners, I mean consultant, they used to feel, oh my God, so much of process. But
Mm,
at the end of the month, they all realize that yes, these processes are making our life so easy,
mm,
and we are not supposed to move anywhere. I mean, I was traveling and I said my laptop is not working. They made sure that in Hyderabad, the laptop is being delivered before even I reached there. So these kind of planning and everything, and then every employee is so perfect in doing that. So I thought, yeah, when you were explaining it, I could really realize that yes, this is how. And they perform also. Everyone feels so happy and engaged. If you
mm.
talk to anyone, they are so full of enthusiasm, and a lot of
Yeah.
yeah,
Very
great.
nice to hear this.
Yeah,
So I've
thank you.
heard about Chrysalis uh, HRD. I think they have a
Yeah.
software also, right?
Yeah, now they are moving into LMS based training also. Earlier they were not. So Sheila, so there are two organization. Chrysalis HRD is now, earlier it was Chrysalis Human Resource Limited. Now it is converted into Chrysalis HRD. So they have big plans. So Mumbai is the head office, and then we have it Gurgaon. So Sheila is the lady, Sheila Vasan Singla.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Ah,
25
excellent.
years old organization. Yeah,
Great.
thank
Really
you.
good to hear that.
Yeah.
I've heard of, I believe, Sapient technology used to be something like this, but of
Mhm.
late, I think they have been acquired and they have changed. But so people who kind of joined there, they were fanatical about their company, and like we saw one statistic that employees always endorse their company. They feel their company is the best. So some of my ex-colleagues, they joined there, and any three of them I used to talk to, how was your company, how are things? Oh, it's awesome, it's awesome. They never had any regular words. They never said good. They always said awesome, or brilliant, or some strong adjective. you know,
Correct,
uh,
correct. Even in Chrysalis, we never say that. Let's see. So we always say, let me figure it out. What can be done? Yes,
mm,
we are going to do it. Let us figure it out. What is the best way? So we used to say. So the Sheila used to say like this. So we also started saying, all right, I don't have the answer right now, but let me check what I can. Let me figure it out. So I
yeah.
could resonate with that.
Okay. Awesome. So now we look at something probably even more important than growth drivers, more important in the sense that it's important for us, which are the individual drivers of engagement. So these are again very powerful and probably an outcome of what we were talking about earlier. So how does an individual feel? So it could be prompted by the culture, by the values, by their immediate manager, but ultimately it is the individual who has to feel engaged. And so therefore and we have seen the Gallup surveys. Many of us have participated in the Gallup surveys, and there are those 12 questions which come. So these are identical to some of those questions. So am I committed to my company's core values? So that is very important. People should know what those core values are. I have come across organizations where people have been working for 15 years and they are not sure what are the company's values. Or people who don't even know, what is the revenue that the company earns, or in which countries it is there. So it's difficult to be committed when you are not sure what your company is all about. Then our companies think highly of our products and services. So as an employee, do I think so? And if you know if I feel that yes, our customers are thinking highly of our products and services, in case I see a gap, I will try and do my best to address that gap. Do I feel that my opinion counts? So this is very important. This is part of the Gallup survey also. That as an individual, do I feel that I matter? Am I made to feel important? So if an individual feels important, like Pallavi was saying, even as a consultant, that they were making her feel important, that really shows that they really understand, each individual as a person. So that's really powerful because you are judged not by the way you deal with your seniors, but your character really shows when you deal with your juniors or maybe your vendor partners. I've seen many organizations don't treat their vendor partners right, and while they photo frame their values, mutual respect, mutual regard, and all of that, but they actually don't practice much of that. But if you are respecting people who work for you, you are respecting your partners who are working along with you, then that makes a big difference. So do people feel counted? That is very important. Now, next is I have a clear understanding of what is expected of me at work. This is again very, very important. People should know, they should have a clear understanding of what is expected, because you cannot have high productivity if there is a mismatch between what I think I need to do and what the organization thinks needs to be done. So if there is no alignment over there, then nobody can be productive. So therefore, this is very critical, that is there a clear understanding. Next is I understand how I can contribute to meeting the ends of the organization. So everybody contributes, but we need to understand how we are contributing. Very often, what people have this tendency to feel that, look, I'm not really important here. I'm just a small guy in the organization. But every small guy counts. If you add up and multiply the impact of the small guys, you see that it makes a huge difference. So if every small guy starts thinking that I'm a small guy, then the company will go for a toss. So everybody needs to appreciate that everybody's contributing and they will feel. So if only their immediate managers, the culture, the values, and the leadership of the company drives that understanding that, look, you matter, you are contributing to the end goals of this organization. Next is, have I been fairly rewarded? This is something we will talk about more. So the rewards are very important. Then senior leaders value employees. So I think Pallavi gave a great example of this lady. So how senior leaders value employees, and we have probably you've heard the story of Sudha Murthy when she was an employee with the Tatas. How JRD saw her waiting outside the Tata office in Pune, and sorry, in Mumbai, and he because it was late evening, she was alone, and her husband had not come to pick her up. So he waited to ensure that you know her husband comes and picks her up, and then he went on his way. So that is the value that a leader puts to every employee. And if that is the value a leader puts, that employee also feels extremely grateful. Sudha Murthy remembers that incident till today, and she has narrated that in her biography. So that's how leaders, good leaders, ensure that the values are driven, which results in engaged employees, which results in better productivity. So everybody is treated with respect at work, regardless of who they are. So this is again a very critical. And sometimes in Asian cultures where we tend to be hierarchical, this gets blurred a bit. So we need to be doubly aware in India and other Asian countries that this point needs to be addressed. This is also connected to another value which is very precious to every individual, which is the idea of organizational fairness. Organizations should be fair and they should be seen to be fair. And that really ensures a lot of comfort in everyone, and therefore better engagement. I can 9 is I can concentrate on my job when I'm at my work area. So this is again very important. Any thoughts why this is important?
Can you repeat it again,
I
the
can
question?
I can concentrate on my job when I'm at my work area. So
Yeah, so if the external environment and everything
Yeah.
is very much, conducive, so people are able to work and perform as per the expectation. So I can concentrate on my work. Yes, that happens.
yeah, so what happens at times is, you have a certain thought in mind that today I will go and achieve this, or this is my role, this is what I wish to do, but you get assigned to unplanned activities, and therefore you are not able to deliver what you were thinking of delivering or what you are supposed to deliver in the organization formally. So as a result, at times your productivity gets hindered because you are suddenly assigned to all kinds of things. So let's say we had this guy in the training department. He was a MIS guy. So his job was to collate all the MIS, to create the Excel sheets, to publish the data, to have the dashboards updated. But sometimes, because the HR head would feel that MIS means that all extra work. So suddenly he would be assigned to, oh, we have these engineers who are getting trained. Find out if the hotel has their lunch ready or not. Can we send them for lunch or something? So he would keep getting assigned for all kinds of work, and he was very confused that am I a logistics handling guy or am I a guy? So it's very important that people, by and large, stick to what they're supposed to do, which is entailed in the job description. Or if it is not, then that should be communicated proactively. Otherwise, people are confused and don't know, and the productivity goes for a toss. So my personal work objectives are linked to my work area's business plan. So this is again very important, that how my work objective is linked to my department's KRAs. That clarity should be there for everyone. Any questions on the individual drivers?
So, Dipankar,
Yeah.
I have seen in a few organizations, where I have personally worked,
Mhm,
that
mhm,
though they have things in place, I mean, the L&D is in place, they are really focused on employee engagement and the group engagement. Department-wise, they are conducting the activity also. The processes are also there. Along with that, the structure and hierarchies are also there. Right. The KPIs are also defined
mhm,
by the HR. But when we
mhm,
come to this fourth point, right, I have a clear understanding of what is expected of me at work.
mhm.
So they have the clarity, but when it comes to performing, they are not able to perform just because their seniors, they are also aware about their KPIs, but still they keep engaging them in some or other, and ultimately the customer service get hindered, and ultimately the end result, which is the organization objective, is not being met. So in that situation, can you please suggest what should be done?
See, that's it is really first of all, you are a consultant yourself. I mean, they should do a gap analysis. If
Mm-hmm.
outcomes are not being met, where is the gap? Is it in like lots of organizations have the right values, they talk about the right culture, but when it comes to practicing, they don't really, it's just not there.
Mm-hmm.
And so very often what happens is that people just don't practice some of the basic tenets of the value system that they talk about. So the gap between what they say and what they actually do, very often that is where the challenge is. And organizations love to have a mission, vision, strategy, but those are
Yeah.
more because, as an organization, I cannot be taken seriously if I don't have a mission, vision, or strategy. So I need to have one. So therefore, they go and acquire one. But it's not really talking. It is not really getting embedded in the organization, and they
Hmm.
don't hardly do much to embed it in the organization.
So, what should we suggest to them as a consultant, that we are seeing that yes, this is the problem area, and ultimately the customer service is getting affected? Not only customers, they are, the customers are depleting gradually, and moreover, what is their ultimate organization goal, or what they have set a goal for themselves for by 2025? That is not going to be achieved if this is the way they are going to continue. So, what strategy? Because we were talking about strategy. In this case, what do you suggest that it
Uh,
should be done?
Also a thought that it also depends on the individual's maturity, like right, how they are prioritizing their work. If they have these KRAs in place, and
Hmm.
if it's a regular unnecessary additional work coming in, one is the transparency in communication. Are they able to say no or approach somebody higher up or
Hmm.
amongst their peers that this is what is going wrong? So is that being encouraged or not? And then
Okay.
maybe go to the right direction, or do they have the maturity to prioritize? That may itself be lacking. It could be an individual thing also. Just a
So,
thought listening to
okay.
you. Yeah.
So, as
Yeah,
an
it could
HR, we
be.
should.
Yeah.
Please.
So yeah, it could be individual or it could be systems processes. Like suppose if something is going wrong, do I have a culture of any a third party? Can I reach out to anybody in the organization and say that I need help over here? Not necessarily I'm escalating, but
Hmm.
this is not working out. And how do I align myself to my KRAs and my organization and my departmental KRAs?
Hmm.
So is there anybody you can go to
Go
talk
to and
to?
so
Yeah,
the communication transparency, so that how to whom they can reach, or the
right.
escalation process is not in place, right? That's why the things
Exactly,
are
exactly,
happening,
Yeah.
exactly.
right? Yeah,
So
escalation has to be taken care of.
absolutely, the skip levels, the escalation
Hmm.
matrix, and sometimes I've seen, I will not name the company, but it's one of the biggest companies in the world. But they have
Hmm.
everything,
Hmm.
escalation matrix. Uh, they have ombuds person you can go to, or they have skip levels. But
Hmm.
the problem is that moment you challenge somebody senior in the hierarchy, then or even not challenge, like I'm saying, don't challenge, but at least point out that this is not working out the way it's supposed to. Then that's your death net. That is
Ah.
you will either be kind of reduced to the lowest rating, or you will be exited from the system.
Exactly the same thing. Even I'm realizing in this organization. So, this is also one of the leading, third private sector bank of
Hmm.
India, right?
Hmm.
Third
Yeah.
largest private sector bank of India. And I can see LinkedIn everywhere, they are being flooded, like the customer complaints are coming up,
Hmm.
because their focus is they want to become the number two. They are looking forward to become number one, but
Hmm.
they are not able to serve the customer in that way. Moreover, they are only looking forward to the acquisition part. Whereas when we have done the training, we have categorically told them that, okay, if you are meeting your KPIs, then your entire focus should be on customer services. Whereas
Yeah.
these, the frontliners, they are complaining, we are meeting the KPIs, but still we have been pressurized to move ahead. And ultimately, the entire organization is coming at loss. Because this is a long run, in long run, they will be paying for it. If people start thinking.
Yeah.
So the way SBI, people have started thinking about the SBI.
Mhm.
That SBI is not servicing properly. Similarly, it is going to happen with them. We were just thinking what to be suggested, what should be done. Thank you so much for the input, Arpita and Sir you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
So
one more
actually,
thing which
first
I
of,
just to sorry to interrupt. One more thing which
yeah,
I have
Ganesh.
come across
Huh.
is these good leading organizations with all their mission, vision, values, and all, everything
Hmm.
is in place. So 3 weeks in the month, everything is fine. But in the if you are in sales, in the closing week, everything is gone for a toss.
Yeah.
Again, after the
Ah,
closing, when the sales
it
have
become a
closed,
mad show.
again everything comes back. Yes, this vision, mission, all integrity and all, everything comes back again. So
So
closing.
regular intervention should happen so that these guys are back in their place. Every week they should be given a booster, a
So
vaccine
actually,
kind of a thing.
the head office people are involved. No, they want things. They want the numbers first. They say that give the
Numbers
numbers
first,
first,
yeah.
then we'll talk later.
But they are not, they are actually overlooking the long term,
Exactly, exactly. No,
yeah.
it is. It's
In
a
long
harm in
term,
the long
they
term. It's
are
a
going to get wiped out like anything. Because if
Yeah.
any other one they start working on customer service, people are going to look up forward for that only. And they have seen their existing customer base is degrowing. That also we have calculated from the analytics. That is happening, but still they are not understanding. Anyways, thank you so much.
Sure. So, see, I feel and this is a kind of serious problem with organizations in terms of engagement is far off. Even if they have people who are maybe not deeply engaged, but at least giving what they're supposed to deliver. Even that, I think employees are not doing, partly because the organization is just has the values and the culture only on paper. It's not really driving those, and it has to come from below. When you do your visioning exercise, when you do your
Agreed.
visioning exercise, it really needs to be consulted. People need to be consulted. People need to be kind of the priorities of the organization need to be shared. They need to be fine tuned, better informed. So all of that needs to happen. But many organizations just kind of borrow control C, control V. They borrow this and they bring it and they say, okay, now we have all the stuff. Now let's go for the numbers. So Jack Welch famously said that values and numbers, they are both very important. So if he said that if he used to be like Donald Trump, in the sense that he used to talk very rough, like some Americans do.
Mm.
So his statement was that if your man has the numbers and he's got the values, then I love him. If he's got the values and he ain't got the numbers, then I'm going to give him a second chance. And if he's got the numbers and he ain't got the values, then he's the horse's ass. I will show him the door. so
Correct. Hmm.
Right. Yeah.
So the values are very important for long-term sustenance. Today I may get the numbers, tomorrow I may not get the numbers, but if the
Hmm.
values are intact and in place, then chances are that eventually I will get the numbers. But if for the numbers I compromise on the values, then maybe only I will be living from quarter to quarter, and there is no long-term vision.
Hmm. So the onboarding process, during that, we have to take care that the culture and the organization objectives are clearly being understood by the people and the process also
Very
during the
critical.
onboarding, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
onboarding is very critical,
Mm-hmm.
and
Hmm.
but the thing is, see, people, you get onboarded and you see that these are the values. Now from day one, any normal human being, he or she has a question in her mind, that is this value really being practiced, and they
Yeah,
will
so there
keep
is
judging.
usually a conflict. So what is being preached to them,
Yeah,
that is not being practiced, and that's why the conflict arises,
yeah,
and the people start, behaving the way they want.
yeah. So when they see that it is being practiced, there will be better engagement. They will feel, yes, this
Great.
organization talks and walks the talk. But
Mm.
if they feel that it just talks and it doesn't walk the talk, then
Mhm.
they will not feel very engaged. They will say, okay, here is a lying organization.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, some of the best practices to get better engagement. So one is you promote wellness. This is becoming more and more critical to ensure that. So it also stems from what sort of processes you have. So if you have, like you Pallavi talked about the example of this Chrysalis Capital, sorry, HRD. So they have good processes. They have, so they ensure, if you have good processes, then that ensures that there is a fair distribution of workload. The amount of pressure that people get, pressure is always there, is unavoidable. But if you are given, some sort of space, if you are given some latitude to decide, then you can deal with that pressure. Then process and procedures in your work environment, they promote safe conditions. The environment is safe and healthy. This becomes even more important during COVID times. You can balance work and personal interest. So so that's very good. If you can do that, the organization allows you to do that. So my organization promotes health and well-being, and my organization allows me to keep a reasonable balance between work and family life. So this makes a big difference nowadays. And if people are given that space, uh, then people feel attached to their organization. They feel grateful to their organization and want to pay back. So, and I feel that if you actually design your processes properly, then you would be able to have a more equitable distribution of workload as compared to organizations which don't have processes. And when you don't have processes, what inevitably happens is the person who's very capable, ends up doing a lot of work, and the person who's not very capable, people run away from her and don't give her enough tasks. So the poor chap who is capable, or the poor lady who's very capable, she gets all the workload, and so. But basically, there is a unequal distribution workload. So moving on, providing career development opportunities. So this is a big differentiator today, because people understand that the work environment is very dynamic. The entire labor market is very dynamic. You have new technologies coming in, you have new things happening. So is the organization investing in my learning? Is it invested in my learning? So of course the big risk is that you may train people and then people will run away. So but the thing is, you have to make a forward investment. So Henry Ford, who was you know uh, the person who set up the Ford Motor Company, so he was asked that, he used to spend a lot of money on R&D, he used to spend a lot of money on training people. So so his friend asked him that, you spend so much money on training, aren't you worried that these people will get trained and then join your competitor? So he said that, yeah, that worries me, but what worries me even more is that somebody who's untrained and sitting in my company and eating up the productivity completely, that worries me more than this person getting trained and joining competitor. So so that is a strategic decision that has to be taken by every company. Then you have job rotation practices. uh, do you rotate people? That always adds to better engagement, better learning, better exposure. So do you have such programs, even if not for everybody, at least for your top talent? Do you have this? So that makes a big difference. Then you have internal growth. Like some companies decide that, let's say they have two levels below the manager. One is assistant manager, one is deputy manager. So in one company I worked, all deputy managers had to be hired internally. They had to be grown internally. You cannot hire a deputy manager from outside. And same with certain other positions as well. So there was a guaranteed internal growth for employees, and as a result, naturally people will feel very satisfied. Succession planning for fast trackers. The fast trackers are people who are very good at their work. They also know that they are good at work. So they are typically looking for a shorter timeline to grow. So if others are growing after at least 3 years tenure in a certain role, fast trackers would expect a quicker growth. So do you have a succession planning mechanism? Is it transparent? Is it criteria based? Are you investing in it? So all of that is very important. Then mentoring and coaching. Do you mentor people? Do you coach people? Or do you just have a transactional relationship with people? So that makes a big difference. In one of the companies I worked, HR came up with a big mentoring program, and one senior leader, he was a very friendly sort of a person. He was assigned as my mentor. So, but that mentoring never really took off. But every time we would meet, and he would say, "Hey, I'm your mentor, okay? So you better take me seriously." And we would just have a hearty laugh. So it was all on paper, but it never really took off. But had it taken off, I think it would have made a big difference. So mentoring and coaching always makes a huge difference, but provided it is done systematically, it is done end to end, and not just as a one-off. So this makes a big difference. Okay, let's look at what Accenture does. Let's look at this video. How they attract talent and retain talent. If you can't hear the audio, just let me know.
How can I pick one thing that I love about what I do?
The unexpected, I would say. The unexpected.
I'm able to learn new things every day and follow my passions and what I'm interested in.
You can learn and develop and grow in ways that you never expected.
You're with really smart people who understand your language.
I think what I love best about what I do is that it actually has the potential to change the world.
Accenture is a place where I can innovate. Accenture is a place where I've been able to take what I love doing, which is creating, to the next level.
I think the impact that you're able to provide is pretty amazing.
Access to big clients and being able to work on big projects where we can actually do real innovation.
We have really dynamic clients, we have dynamic resources, we have dynamic people.
Accenture allows you to work across many different industries.
It's amazing how you work with so many different personalities. Every day I'm working with different people, I'm working on different challenges. My internship has nothing to do with getting coffee or making copies. I have a very hands-on internship.
I think the question I'd have is, what do you want to do? Because you can do whatever it is you want to do.
You should be thinking about what you haven't learned yet and how you want to learn it and how you want to grow.
If you want adventure, if you want the ability to travel and see the world, if you want to impact companies big and small, if you want to play around with robotics, if you want to work in advanced innovation labs.
When I had my first interview, it was so comfortable. I felt very welcomed.
Some places allow you to really make it what you want and so that you can get the most out of it. And that's exactly how it's been for me at Accenture.
The opportunity to work on these day-to-day, life-transforming things that are happening around you instead of being on the sidelines.
They care about who you are instead of what you are.
We are still learning what it means to live in a very digitally advanced, technology-driven world that depends on innovation. But if you want to figure it out, come play.
So any takeaways from the video?
It was a kind of empowerment that was given to the team. And also, I guess, an onboarding where the intern actually was so happy with, genuine project and not just bringing coffee, in other words. So a lot of ownership and doing what you wish to do, that seemed inherent within the entire team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So good onboarding,
the
job
pride
rotation.
was visible. Yeah.
Yeah. So job rotation, you could see that like earlier we had discussed, people who are engaged, they tend to speak well of the company, they tend to speak well of their customers and about their company to the customers. So all of that was coming through in this video. And also there is a lot of working across clients, across skill areas, and that keeps people empowered and motivated and engaged. So of course, this is a promotional video. I'm not sure if all of this happens. I have friends who are kind of very tired working. It's a good company, great exposure, also very tough work environment. But okay, the good thing is you learn a lot.
But yes, about Cape Gemini, I've heard the employee have been talking really high. I have a personal experience. People talk that, there is no such restriction for work. They get opportunity to choose about the projects. They can sit. It is all about deliverance that they focus upon.
Yeah, that's true. So great. So that's a great example. Okay, let's keep moving. So on some other best practices. So engagement is a leadership priority. So this is something we discussed. So leaders and managers, they have to think that engagement is important, because if they don't think, if they think this is just a HR, gizmo, then nobody else is going to take it seriously. So leaders and managers, they have to drive this. They have to review the measures, the outcomes, regularly engage with focus groups, find out what people are saying, hold managers accountable for engagement levels. So, in some companies, this is one of the most critical metric that a manager has, because all managers are not interacting with clients, and they are internally focused. So they have their internal metrics. So one of the most critical metrics is their engagement level. How engaged is the team. So these surveys are anonymous, and then you get a certain score. And if your score is not in a expected range, then those managers are expected to shape up or ship out. So this is taken very seriously, and any manager who has problems in terms of engaging people, in terms of treating people the right way, they are shown the door right away. So, so as we were saying, that how a leader behaves kind of sets the tone of the culture in the department and in the organization. Next is communication, culture and communication of engagement. So treating people with respect and valuing diversity. Uh, uh, one of the reasons why some of the old American companies are not doing well is generally they would believe that they did not have diversity. You just had, old white men leading all the decisions, all the departments, and therefore they were not doing well. Now you have the new crop of IT companies like Google, Facebook, where more than 50% people are drawn from different parts of the world. How empowering you are, so do people feel empowered, or do they feel shackled? If they feel shackled, then nobody can be productive. So empowering is very critical. People are encouraged to pursue creativity and innovation. We saw that in the video also. People are encouraged. Active communication, how do you do? Through town halls, business updates, annual data celebrations. So you keep up the dialogue. It's very important to have a dialogue with the leadership and the team members. So that is an ongoing process. It should not come to a standstill, and that has to be live all the time. So that helps a lot in people getting to know how the company is doing, what it has achieved, what it has failed to achieve, how it can do better next time. So all of that helps in a big way. And then employment surveys and actions. So at times, people do the surveys because that's something which big companies do, but they do not have follow-up action. And so it's very important not only to have a survey, but to understand the verbatim comments that have come, the ratings that have been given by people, what are the gaps, and address those gaps. It's not just enough to do the survey and say that, okay, like big companies, I also have a certain Gallup survey and this is my Gallup score. But what are you doing about the gap? What are you doing about the fact that your scores maybe not up to the mark in certain departments? So that is also very important, and that will result in better numbers maybe next time if you take up action and you address those gaps. So last but not the least is compensation benefit. So this is of course very, very, very critical. So how do you want to compensate? Now, the biggest component of our CTC is the base pay. So, there are many companies which are now devising base pay according to the skills that people bring to the table. And, so they are incentivizing people with rare skills. They are incentivizing people who are developing skills within the organization. So the base pay is flexible, and that is being offered. Next, you have short-term incentives. So, like you have sales incentives, you have in some organizations you get additional incentives if your attendance is very regular, if your deliverables are very regular, just to ensure that things are um, moving as per planned. Then you have long-term incentives. Any idea which is the most famous long-term incentive?
ESOP,
Yeah, absolutely. You get a virtual chocolate. So,
please.
so, so ESOPs are the most famous, long-term incentives that one can get, and they are absolutely wonderful because, in a way, notionally, you become a co-owner of the company because you have shares of the company, and as and when they mature, you are likely to get an X amount of money. And just to share a small story, long ago when you had the first dot-com boom in India in 1998, 99, I had joined a startup. The startup was promoted by the Dalmia company, and so it was called jobsahead.com. And I got ESOPs as one of the founder members. And but when I left the organization, I just forgot I had ESOPs, and I did not think much about it because I thought this is just something that you sign on paper, and nothing really comes out of it. And I went away and joined another company. And then 2 years later, when Monster bought Jobs Ahead, I got a call from Monster India, and they said that you had some shares. So because we have bought out the company now, you can kind of they have matured, and you can take the equivalent amount, or you can retain those shares. So, they called me over to the office, and I chose to kind of sell those off, and I was given the equal amount in terms. So that was a complete out of the blue money that came my way. I had forgotten it. I had written it off. I had not even planned it in my financial planning. So it was a big surprise and a very nice and pleasant surprise. So, long-term incentives can be very useful. When I was in GE Capital and it became Genpact, I was part of the transition, and they had to retain some of their good talent. What they did was they had a deferred income plan, so DIP, and you would be given an X amount of money if you stayed with the company for the next 2 years, because there was a fear that when they were losing the GE brand name, people may not want to stay with the company. So they had this long-term incentive that if you stay with us for the next 24 months, you get an X amount, based on your CTC. So that was very nice. People got some additional incentives to stay back. Not that people would have left, but they had all the more reason to be staying back and to be better engaged. Then you have the benefits. You have multiple benefits. A lot of companies, like the government of India, gives you a leave travel allowance every 2 years. People travel around. Similarly, there are other allowances which are given. Many companies are very liberal with allowances. They give you allowances for not just as a tax saving device, but even genuine allowances to read more, to travel more, to some entertainment. So those are very nice, and some people get paternity benefits, maternity benefits. So those are very helpful, and definitely people feel very good about when the company and the organization comes to their help at these delicate moments in life when people are maybe unconsciously looking for some support. Then reward for contingent workers, people who are like consultants, like Pallavi mentioned. So what sort of rewards would you like to have? So that is really something that is happening more and more, because more and more organizations are working with consultants, and you know their full-time employees are shrinking, while a lot of work is being done by consultants who are there for a fixed tenure, or maybe on a project by project basis. So what rewards would you like to give? Maybe an incentive to be able to close on time or deliver a quality product or help them get a business. So that is becoming more important because uh, you are getting into a gig economy where more and more consultants are working together, coming together for a project and dispersing, and then again coming together. So, how contingent workers feel about an organization, how attached they feel, that is very important. And people are able to give higher productivity as compared to people who are just serving time. So, those are some of the uh, aspects of employee engagement. So now I wanted to speak on skill matrix, but we are running out of time. And I think last time you had mentioned succession planning. So my suggestion is that we have another session, maybe next week or any time around late evening. So we can do a session on succession planning and skill matrix.
Yeah, we have been given the chart of next week and one next the week after that also, in fact,
Okay.
by ISTD
Okay.
Yeah,
on
2 more
Sundays.
weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we have next week and next to next week on
So
Sundays?
no, the thing is the content is not given, but I'm assuming retention is one topic which was there, and the skill matrix.
Okay. So that's part of talent management, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I don't have a communication on this.
Okay.
Okay, then anyway, then just sorted. Then
Yeah.
because skill matrix will take some time. It's not very complicated. It's very simple. But only thing is, I just can't finish it in maybe even 15 minutes. So it is going to take some time.
Is
While
it a skill will matrix?
no.
Matrix that we are
Skill will
talking? No,
matrix is
not.
different. That's different.
Okay. Okay.
But it is, skill matrix is a tool, and it really helps kind of understand your organization from a competency perspective. So so then great, then it's sorted. We will take it up next week, and then we will do succession planning. Succession planning can be slightly complex, but that should be so. So great, then we will connect next week. Any questions so far on employee engagement?
It's clear, quite clear.
Yeah, it is clear to me as well.
Okay,
Good.
great. So thank you, and have a great evening, what's left of it, and have a great week ahead. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
There is a
Same to
bun.
you.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Tuesday
Thank
is a
you.
band,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So be careful,
yeah.
and talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Thank you. Thank you.